Mr. Greedy, Mr. Greedy, red dying bleedy bleedy. Oh, Mr. Greedy, I'm talking to you, Mr. Greedy. Red. Blessed love, greetings in the name of His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie I. Yes, I welcome the Militant Voices podcast. As you can see, we live on location, season 2, episode 5, where we have with our brother, the IC, the historian, the IC himself, Chris, aka Shango's son. You don't know how it goes, so we'll be forward in a moment to start the interview. Give thanks and praise to the Most High Jah, Rastafari, blessed love. Yes, I. Blessed love, welcome to Militant Voices again. Yeah, we're in Havia, our brethren live on location, as you can see. I see by my brethren residence. I see Chris, aka Shango. I know the historian tonight. Our podcast and our episode will be, we'll do something different than we used to dealing with the artists and stuff like that. But tonight, we want to bring something different to the podcast. I see saying because the podcast is based upon this kind of elements. I see, but we had a lot of artists who we needed to put out there. So tonight now we take you into something different. We're going to deal with our history and our link from Africa to the Bahamas, and who better to tell the story than the historian here, my brother Chris, aka Shango, who's a host and a historian for the Pompey Museum downtown Bay Street. We'll deal with our history in those areas. So Chris, I can give you the floor and I'll let the people know who is Chris and what you deal with.
So for those who don't know me, on my day job, I work at the Pompey Museum downtown. For those outside the Bahamas, we here in Nassau, Bahamas, right there on Bay Street, the big, pink, pretty building.
Yes, I.
There I'm the historical interpreter. And when I say I'm the interpreter, people often ask what language.
Yes,
and that language is history.
Yes,
okay, because you need historical interpreters with history, and we can get into some of that. And when y'all hear my answers to some of your questions and some of my things that I wish to say before I go, y'all could definitely see where we coming from. But I'm just happy to be here. It's a long time friend of mine. It's got all my people who see me on the road or see me with chains, aside from my electors, but my unks, I get all my unks and things from Rascopper.
Bless it.
Handmade, custom made and all.
To the king, you don't know.
Right? But yeah man, let's get started. But
yeah man,
first of all I want to talk about, because we talking about Africa, and oftentimes when we talk about Africa, many of our brothers and sisters, they get closed-minded, because we always given a certain image of Africa, right?
Due to the Eurocentric ways we being following after and stuff like that. Yes, King.
The demonization, if we could just be playing with it, right?
Yeah.
So every time they show you Africa on TV, it's something negative. You understand?
True. Yeah.
Every time you hear about Africa, even within our own history, it's negative. They even tell us lies in contemporary history classes that Africans enslaved themselves. You understand?
Yeah. Because I always use a like what you call like a quick little example. I always should say, Michelle Tricky Babylon Institute. From From long time they give 1,000 movies.
Right.
And 1,000 was this white boy in Africa controlling the animals, beating up the Africans in their own hometown, right? Then they say they come down the line, right? They give you black in the black wire in the car, and the red wire is positive, the black negative. The black hole, black cat pass you bad luck. Wear black to funeral, and then you check the Webster and the Oxford Dictionary. The meaning of black is dark and sinful, and white is angelic and beautiful. So I say, hold on, why everything black is negative?
There you go.
And everything associated with black is negative, and everything associated with white is supposed to be positive.
And of course, the demonization of Africa is in tandem with all of that.
Yes,
you understand? And it's something, of course, people like you and I would be very frustrated with on almost a daily basis, right? Now, what we have to realize is we have to understand what happened to Africa, what happened to our ancestors. How is it that, men like Rascopper, we talk about Ethiopia, we talk about the Lion of Queens, and we talk about the glory of Africa, right? And yet now when we see Africa, first of all, we have to notice it's a very complex issue. Because on one end, the camera only shows you the poor and the suffering,
side of
and
it
we want to rectify and bring justice to that, retribution to that, by any means necessary.
But there also is a beautiful, glorious
side of Africa. Right. So you have
prosperous side.
But at the same time, we don't control our resources. And it's the same thing across the board wherever Africans are. And in order for us to regain these things, we have to start claiming our true identity, which is African people. That don't mean we all have to hold hands and sing kumbaya, but we all have to have the same political and social global
We have
outlook.
become one
Right.
in the spiritual side of it,
Thank
and
you.
connected together.
And this is why
Yeah,
our
man.
history is so important, because there's nothing that unifies the people more than a shared history. You understand? And now when they insert these things like, oh, well, you know, you all Africans and responsible for the slave trade, you know, all the kidnapping. And we had a little conversation off camera before. First of all, African diversity is not even respected. You understand? So if you go to Europe, you know, you go to just Britain, you know, you have Anglo-Saxon, Saxon, you have Nordic, you have even different groups that they erroneously call
different
gypsy,
types, yes.
right? Different
and
ethnicities.
all that, like you say right there in England alone.
Exactly.
Yes, and you say
Now,
Ghana.
Nigeria.
I mean
right,
Nigeria, pardon,
right.
correct.
Okay, so in Nigeria alone, you have over 200 ethnicities, about 200 different and distinct languages. You understand? Far more diverse, down to the molecular level.
That's just in one
country
in the
52
continent.
countries on
in
the
the continent, on the
53
continent,
53
right.
countries on the
On the continent, that's only
right?
one country.
Right.
With over 200 and something
ethnicities and languages. Ethiopia is actually quite close behind
Yeah,
them. They
yeah,
have about
yes.
150
Okay.
or so.
Okay.
Right? But this
Okay.
is just Nigeria
Yes,
alone.
yes.
And so we don't respect the diversity. Now, if we make the parallel with World War II, when Germany, they share a border, they are actually more ethnically similar than Nigerians, right? All of these things, they have the same last names even. But when Germany invaded France, nobody said, oh, well, look at this European on European war. Look at these Europeans doing this to themselves. Nobody says Europeans did it to themselves. And when the Holocaust was committed against the Ashkenazi European Jew, you understand? Nobody said, well, look at these Europeans killing other Europeans. Look at them doing this to themselves.
But when it's African.
Right. You understand? So we don't even have the proper philosophical outlook. And we allow people to tell us that we enslaved ourselves.
Yeah.
And even when you look at the kingdoms that participated in the slave trade, at the end of the day, leading up through the imperial and colonial period, they all fought and were virtually almost all wiped out with a few exceptions. The ones that we know today, you know, Ashanti. And of course, Ethiopia never fell with the great Menelik II,
Well,
who fought against
if no
them,
one
right?
never approached your land and bring the preposition of buying someone from you and doing that, then you wouldn't even have the idea of your mind to go sell someone.
Exactly.
And obviously, I'm sure the people they sold was their enemies or the
Thank
enemy
you very
tribe or
much.
something.
Right.
That's like how most men will do nowadays. If somebody
Exactly.
come and say, look here, me your boys looking for
Right,
him.
yeah.
They got $100,000. You could give them the information to go and kill the
Exactly,
person.
right.
The same thing.
And
So that's how
also,
that play out.
If me and you don't like each other, and it get to the point where it gotta get physical, we gotta do punch it out or pick up one or two rock and
So
drive.
it wasn't like we
you
was
know?
out there selling our
Now,
brothers
if I
and
give-
round them up and all
Right.
that.
And if we enemies and I give you a gun, what happens now? It's a very complex issue and a broad issue. We even had, generally Africans even had a different outlook in life. We did not focus generally on war. This is why Shaka Zulu was so successful in South Africa in unifying what we know today as the Zulu people. He did that by the spear.
Yeah,
One of
man.
the reasons he was so successful, the Zulu used to fight. Their whole purpose of war
Yeah,
was reducing,
was verbal
and reducing casualties.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, verbal.
So
But
when
Shaka
a man
take it
like
from
Shaka
that
Zulu
to
said, "Man,
bloody
we can
war,
walk up to you
to
and stab
bloody
you,"
war, yeah.
obviously it's going to
He
be
changed
successful.
the whole outlook of warfare.
Right. And so,
yeah,
and
approach
so,
of it.
Thank
Yeah.
you. And of course, the Zulus became a force that was one of the last forces to
Yeah,
force the
because
European
they had Cape
colonization.
Africa.
Right.
Them Englishmen who's in Cape Africa was afraid of them.
Right.
I say because it's
Exactly.
how big day judgment army was.
right.
Because they say when Shaka used to be coming, you sound like they hear the earth moving.
Right, exactly.
It's just soldiers foot. That's
exactly.
just foot of
Walking
soldiers
through.
coming.
And
my
Shaka
Lord.
purposefully. And he was in
used
my
to do
opinion,
that.
he was a genius. He
Yeah,
did that on purpose.
to let you see how
let them know
powerful
and so
his
they could
power,
send the message
his power,
back.
his
exactly,
power.
right?
Yeah,
but
man.
We talking about Africa here, and we have to have this love for Africa that that we know you possess, that we know that I possess.
Yeah.
But this is something that we all have to have, and for us to claim and reclaim our rightful place on the map of human geography, as Dr. Clark would say, we have to start claiming our things, as we would say here, right? So we always hear about these minerals in Africa. I'll just focus on one. We know about gold, diamonds, but coltan is one. Coltan is one that is rarely spoken about, and it's one of the most important minerals right now.
Explain the mineral, please.
Well, coltan in that camera right there. Coltan on the computers that the people watching.
Okay.
Coltan in our cell phones. You understand?
Okay.
companies like iPhone, Samsung, there isn't pretty much a technological company. I hope you don't get sued for that, but it pretty
Don't worry
much
about
is.
that. That's the truth.
Yeah,
That's
right.
The truth. Information is power.
But these companies, they essentially rob the world. And then these men are put on pedestals for it. Now, coltan is the #1 mineral. If you know the movie Black Panther, vibranium was actually a metaphor for coltan.
Coltan, all right.
And the place where that
Right.
and the place
Power.
where that
Yeah, yeah, put it
meteorite,
here.
the
Power.
place where that meteorite landed in Black Panther, in real life is a place called Northern Kivu in the Democratic Republic.
What they
of
call
Congo.
Wakanda now. It's called Wakanda in the movie.
Right, and that where that
Yeah.
landed is Northern Kivu. That is where they get between 75 and 90%
Yeah,
of
man.
all coltan in the world.
Yeah, man.
Now that coltan then goes to Belgian-owned, French-owned, American-owned, British-owned mining companies. And then our technological companies that we know and love so much. You know, we can't wait to buy the new iPhone 10. Comes out, right?
It's dread.
Hold on.
It's
Hold on.
dread.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, they go and they take it there. Now, the market price last year at some point for a kilo of coltan was $120. And these companies come together and they say, oh, well, these Africans on average only getting $4 a kilo per coltan. And you making thousands of iPhones with 1 kilo of coltan. How much a new iPhone selling for? You make it
$1,500.
all right then.
$1,500.
So 1,000 iPhones is at least $1 million. You understand?
right.
And man, them getting $6.
Dread like
Hold
dread
on.
information.
Hold on now. Then they sell that coltan. You know what happens to that coltan after that? It then gets sent to a place called Foxconn in China. This is where over 50% of all of our technology is made. This is where the sweatshops and thing is. Steve Jobs and man, them people they put on pedestals. It's almost as if some of these people living in the world today, if you know history, you would be able to see some of these people who they really are.
Yeah,
You understand?
a lot of things that's getting created around the world. The
Yeah.
minerals and the resources come
Right.
from Africa.
Exactly.
And they be getting it cheap or using cheap labor.
Thank you. Right.
That's natural.
Right, and
But-
it's all about this ultra capitalism. Now, in 2010, they had a spike in suicide rates in these factories that produce these electronics that we love so much. And the solution that all of these companies and they owned by these men that we put on pedestals and love so much, their solution was to just put nets around the building. You know, I wonder how much money has Bill Gates donated to any form of relief to the area of Northern Kivu that made him a millionaire. You understand? Back in 1953 when
You
IBM,
mean a billionaire?
right, whatever you
billionaire
sorry,
almost by
you-
now.
right, you understand?
But watch
So,
this.
and
Not to
he's
straighten
put-
the conversation.
Yeah, I understand, right?
Yeah,
but
no-
that's pretty much it. But
Yeah.
that's just one small example.
Yeah,
in
because
one
don't worry, we
stream,
got
you
a lot of time to
understand?
get into these things.
Right.
But because you know we have a tight time, and so I want to keep everything. Yeah, I want you to cover plenty grounds here because
Right.
what I want you to really get into for me now is to bring our audience and our people into
Right.
our connection with Africa to the
Right, the
Bahamas.
Bahamian, okay.
How our history started here when we landed here, and you know how it came. You know
Yeah.
the things like that. You know how the
Right.
first settlers that land here. You know what I mean, and who they call now classify as Bahamians. You
Right.
understand
Okay.
me? How
Yeah.
that came into and how
Right.
you know because I show a lot of our so-called Bahamians as our chair.
Right.
We want to know some serious history
Right.
and past, not this. You know, just this
Yeah,
little
flaking history,
the flake
the
they give us,
sugar-coated
just a
version,
sugar-coated
right?
flake.
Okay,
You
so
see?
I can run through it, give you a quick synopsis. Like I just saying my first and only show, so I
Yeah.
can be back plenty. I
Yes,
can give you that quick
yes.
run through and synopsis as I
I want you to
understand
explain
it.
yourself, but I want you
Right.
keep it like get those strong
Yeah,
points out there.
because we ain't got much
Yeah,
time,
so
right?
we can cover
Yeah.
more grounds
Right,
because
yeah.
I didn't see you get into it when you get into it, and I
Yeah,
respect
yeah,
that,
man.
my brother. You,
All right, brother,
that's when
yeah,
the man
man.
know the thing, you see,
Yeah,
and you're
man.
passionate about it, and I love
sure,
that king.
for
That's
sure.
truth, you see.
So-
Truth always come out fiery with someone, you see.
Right. So of
Yeah.
course, you know the Lucayans were the first ones here.
Mm.
You also have a group of people who are supposed to have been pre-Lucayan called the Siboney, but that has not been fully confirmed, right?
Okay.
But the Lucayan people were the first people here. They had their own religion. They traded salt, conch, things of that nature to the south, and then they received other things like stones. So when you find the Zemis, the little deities they used to commemorate with, they were actually stones from places like Cuba, Hispaniola, which is present-day Haiti, right? Then of course Columbus came here. We know what happened there. We can do a show just for Columbus.
Yeah.
So we ain't gonna talk about him too much. I believe it was Ponce de Leon in the 1520s passed through, and he only saw like 1 or 2 Lucayans,
like you
right?
said, right.
Okay. Now, after this period, we are thought to believe that, for a long time it was nothing. Then bang, the Lutheran adventurers came.
Okay,
they live
so-
in Preacher's Cave.
okay.
That's the story.
So
you
that's
get.
the story is that.
Right now, this is my version.
Give it to us.
Okay.
Give it to us.
Right.
Because I want to hear.
Now-
if people was here all along, I know
Right.
whatever. You understand?
They were,
Understand me?
they wasn't here all along. The conquistadors, not just Columbus, but the conquistadors,
Came after
the
him,
Catholic
eh?
movement,
All them came after.
all that who came after, they
Okay.
would take Lucayans
Yeah,
from the
yes,
Bahamas
you know, they
and
doing
send
that.
them to the south. You understand what I'm saying? So then, but I don't spend too much time on the Lucayans, but just we gotta
Yeah.
commemorate
I
them,
want to
you
come
know?
here. I want to bring
Yeah.
it down from the.
Now,
Yes.
and so that's how they came out. So it wasn't. So they probably didn't put the sword to all of the Lucayans. Some of them probably died from European diseases. Some of them died from the sword, of course. You know, they raped them. They feed them to dogs.
yeah,
you know,
I
the
feel
story
yeah.
is, right?
So who were the first
and
African settlers?
Now the first African
To settle
settlers,
here,
as
them-
I understand
Who's
it,
make us
would
the
have
so-called
come here,
demons, our ancestors.
right?
Yeah.
Would have come here as slaves of the Bermudians.
Okay.
So Shakespeare has a play called The Tempest that's based on this ship crashing and all that. That's actually based on the first English settlers that went to Bermuda. Bermuda is the only island actually that didn't have any indigenous people living on it.
Okay.
And that's why they glorify the story, because that's the one with they ain't talking about too much killing in that story. So they glorify that one. But anyway, so Bermuda, now what they did was when the Lutheran adventurers came in 1648, they were mandated to only settle in the northern Bahamas. The reason for that being was they had already established salt plantations in the southern Bahamas. So who you think was working these salt plantations? You think they had European Bermudians sailing their ships down to Nagua, to
was the
Turks,
same
to
Arawaks and
Mayagwana?
stuff?
No, it wasn't
No, it wasn't
Arawaks.
that?
It was us.
It was the slaves there.
It was us.
Okay.
Remember, American.
Okay.
They call it American
so
slavery.
they put us. That's
Right.
how we end up in these parts. Them. Then they brought us here to work. Then, in
Right.
other words.
1619. You see,
Okay.
they call it American slavery. Remember, America. I don't like to call it.
Yeah,
United States.
yeah. Because
they was a British colony at the
yeah,
time.
I understand
So
you, yeah.
1619, these laws affected everywhere, and Virginia
Like
and
always, it's
Bermuda.
still to this day. Everything happened in America always affect us trickle down on us.
Exactly.
King. Same
right.
history.
And we see him to only be able to get a leg up when America
Yeah.
doing badly.
so where
Right.
did the first set of slaves who landed here, like where did
They
they land?
would've-
Which island? Which island?
They were in the deep South Bahamas, in the same places where you see we produce salt even to this day.
So that'd be like
we're
Inagua
talking
and places like that.
Inagua, Mayagwana, down to Turks and Caicos.
So that'll be the
in
first
the
set
days
they
of the
landed there.
Lucayans, we was all one. We talking about the Lucayos. So that is the archipelago of the Lucayos. Turks and Caicos in the Bahamas, we all a part of the same archipelago. Only through politics and the salt industry, they split from us in the mid 1800s. Because they want to stay in the same politics from over 200 years before.
So
you see that?
So
When the Lutheran adventurers came, they could not settle in
So
southern
the
Bahamas.
first set of Africans who came
Was slaves.
came as workers,
Right.
to work the
salt
salt and
plantations
different
in
things
the
like
southern
that.
Bahamas.
It wasn't nothing but cotton and all them
prior
things here.
to a Lutheran adventurer arrival, because like I said, why would they tell them, well, y'all only could sell in the north? Because we used to be getting salt from the southern islands in the Bahamas. You
So
understand?
those slaves continue to work here
Right.
and keep
and we talking about families like Lightborn.
and keep until the abolishment of slavery.
Right.
So after the abolishment of slavery, then those first set of settlers, what they happened, they got these lands, or some lands was given
Right.
to them. How that happened?
Well, so then the Lutheran adventurers came in 1648. So the British, they oversee all this stuff and they mandate it. So that's when you only could settle up here. They started doing their salt too. At first, it was only a handful of them. Remember, their boat capsized. They had to live in Preacher Cave. They had to survive and all of that stuff. During that period, they used to use hardwoods.
Preacher Cave, not cutting you off. Preacher Cave, where's that
That's in
located?
Lutra.
That's in Lutra.
The
Okay.
Lutheran adventurers,
Okay.
Preacher Cave, Lutra.
Okay.
When
Big
they
up my
came
Lutra
there,
people. Blessed
right,
love.
Yeah, blessed love.
Yeah, man.
Lutra actually would have been the first republic in the Western Hemisphere if
Okay.
that didn't happen.
happen.
But they hit the reef and all that.
And like you back to what you
right.
thought to what you said,
Okay?
yes, yeah.
So now they also had slaves with them. You understand? Now this one thing I have to say. I'm not trying to downgrade that level of chattel slavery that was happening at that point. However, at that point, proportionately now, so by ratio, there were a lot less black people enslaved. It was always it was never above 60%, and sometimes it was lower than 50% of black people being enslaved. You
Okay.
understand?
Okay.
And it wasn't, even though they had the salt plantations and stuff, it was more so for use among there. They didn't have that capitalist mass production thing coming in yet. You
Okay,
understand?
okay,
And so
okay.
we were a very small community. Now Jamaica and all these places were starting to rise.
So-
and that's when all the money started to get made. You
So
understand?
our forefathers, them who settled here, the first set of
Yeah.
slaves who settled here after
Right.
after slavery was abolished, how did we come in contact with these people? These lands were given to us by the ones who had us in slavery, or
Oh, no,
did
no,
we
no,
buy
sir.
them? We came together
No,
with
sir.
money. How we did?
Let me clear that up
Yes,
too. I'm
that's-
glad you mentioned
yes,
that.
King. Yes.
So you know there's
yes.
this myth. They have a lot of
See,
myths
this why
going
I
around.
trying to-
right,
you see, trying to-
about
yes, get
about
certain
slave
things.
masters
Giving
us
land
land
and things
will-
like that.
No.
I would know how that's really gone. Yes,
Now they
brother.
get one case I could tell you about. Newfield, Kid Island. Now how that one get that? I don't know if you ever heard about the Dick DeVoe revolt. The man who get in the shootout with his slave master in Kid Island. Sam Hunter was granted that land because he is the one who snitched.
Okay.
And your boy to die right after that.
Okay.
So that I know, you understand what I saying?
Okay.
Now, when I look back at the past, I tried not, even though I said he is the one who snitched.
From the knowledge you
I
received.
can never, right. No, that's the truth.
No, I
He
mean from
did
the
do
knowledge.
it.
That's
Right.
the knowledge you received.
I still ain't gonna say, oh, well, Sam Hunter was a this and Sam Hunter was a that. Because when you really understand and put yourself in that 19th century mindset, and you understand how dread the laws was, how they really had a vice grip on your life. You understand? The easiest way to get free in most slave colonies was to snitch on somebody.
So how did they
You
accumulate the land?
understand?
How did they get
Now,
this land?
the ways we did it, you had people who had bought their freedom.
Yes, I bless it up.
You
yes,
understand? People who had bought their freedom and they had made their own money and purchased that land. One of the famous ones would have been a man named Bristol Butler and London Butler. You understand? Shout out to Baba Butler. He knows
What
who he
island?
is.
What island they stay? They
That's
are
Rumkey.
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 That's
All
where
the
they
butlers,
stay,
most of
from
them
Rumkey.
butlers from Rumkey.
So this
Right?
guy Bristol Butler and all that.
Yeah.
He was one of those slaves
Slaves
who bought
make
his
that
own
money.
freedom and did
He
his
was
thing.
on the ocean. He was able to make
And
his little money.
he started
hustle,
Rumkey.
buy freedom, buy family
Rumkey had
freedom,
Rumkey.
and he started buying land in
Established
Rumkey and in
Rumkey.
New Providence. You
Okay,
understand?
okay.
Another famous one would have been Mingo Road,
What island?
Exuma.
Exuma.
Mingo Road,
Mingo
buy
Road.
freedom and all that.
Okay.
And then you have the side case of a man like Ben Moss. Man work all his life to low age. This Crooked Island now. Crooked Island in Auckland is one of the dreadest places, worst places to be a slave. And I include in all of Mississippi and them in that. You understand?
Wow.
He
They
was-
had the worst type plantation and slave
They
movements
were
going
straight salt rakers, and this was at the time when it was the mass production of salt.
on. So you have to be
Not just
working
for places- There you go.
24/7.
There's a woman
Yes,
named
King.
Mary Prince. We can talk about her one show when we talking about the Empress and the sisters them.
Okay.
But she wrote about her life, and she was enslaved in Antigua, Jamaica for a little while, in the United States for a little while, and in Bermuda and in the Bahamas. So waste time was in the Bahamas, on the salt plantations in the southern Bahamas. Spent a little bit of time in Ragged Island, but she spent most of her time in Turks and Caicos Islands. You understand?
Don't worry, you keep that
But-
thought? Yes, Brother Shango.
Yes,
So
bro.
watch this. What I was about to get into, right, because we was talking about how our people here as Bohemians, so-called Bohemians, acquire this land here. That I say saying
Right.
because we always have this stigma that the land was given to us by slave masters and whatever like that. So get forward on the topics, but I and them how we acquire this land here.
So I had earlier I alluded to how how many bought their land because they bought their freedom essentially.
Our
the normal
forefathers,
way,
yes,
right?
King, yeah.
Now you have other ways now. So places like Exuma, unlike places like Crooked Island where it's pretty much hell on earth. In Exuma you had what they call the absentee owner.
Okay.
Right?
Explain.
As we know, the absentee owner were those the wealthier the wealthiest. So for example, the Rolls, they were owned by a man named Lord John Roll, who was a member of Parliament in England.
Yes,
who fall down on his face.
these lords and these different type people. Then, yes,
in
King,
England.
yes,
Never
King.
stepped foot any life in the Bahamas, but he was the biggest slave owner in the Bahamas at emancipation. That's something,
Okay,
right?
all right.
Fall on his face at Queen Victoria inauguration.
Yes, I am.
That's the most famous story. for
Embarrassed
them.
the whole
yeah,
inauguration,
You know what I mean?
yes,
But
King.
anyway, yeah.
Well,
so-
that's how they mostly do, you know.
Right. The man who the museum I work to is named after. He is just one of many of the heroes of this. Many of them, unfortunately, can be unnamed. But even before what we know as the Pompey Revolt, you had 2 incidences of resistance by these rural slaves. Then after the Pompey Revolt, that was when they started to make concerted efforts. We can cover the full revolt in another show, but that was when they made concerted efforts through boycotts. So even after Pompey had received his 39 lashes with the cat o' nine tail in front of everybody as punishment, and a Willie Lynch style punishment, you know, you understand? What they did was they would boycott. So you had people like Patrick Grace, these old arrogant colonial officials, and the slaves, the enslaved people, I should say, on that island, they stopped working and they would just work for themselves. So essentially, in layman's term, man, we working for ourselves. We grow this corn. If we feel like sharing with you, we can share with you. Don't forget what happened last time when you all put our mothers and sisters in prison and whipped them during the Pompey Revolt. We ain't forget that. We'll cut you all hip again.
All right.
You see, that was
So
the
that's how
vibration.
our forefathers them was moving in to get into how
so what started to happen, they actually used to call Lord John Roll a slave breeder with a disincentive, meaning that him breeding all these slaves ain't increase his wealth, he used to take away his wealth. And this concerted effort, meaning all them know what they was doing. It wasn't just the Rolls, Fergusons, other names were involved, you understand? They made the plantation unprofitable for Lord John Roll, who also had properties and business dealings through slavery in places like Guyana.
I think I see where it's going.
Trinidad.
I see where it's going.
Right.
I see where it's going.
So now all of a sudden we had the apprenticeship period. And these colonial officials writing about us now.
Yes,
the same
right.
behemoths
Yes,
who we think so passive. We just made to believe we passive. Right? Now, from 1834 to 1838, what they call the apprenticeship period, which was really about this paternalistic attitude, you know, they got to take care of us and we are savages and they got to train us on how to come into society. But the real reason was compensation for the slave master. And the Roll slaves in Exuma were called, and I quote, the most disagreeable slaves in the British colonial empire.
If I get this overstand correctly, now that they see that we were revolting, it was becoming to be this people, they decided, hey, now we can give you all what we was always fighting for.
Right. And
like,
this,
so we can give you all this civilization then. We can civilize you all some then. Because we see you all fighting.
Propaganda,
we see you all fighting for civilization. So we can give you all some civilization to calm you all down.
Of course. And of course we
are
taught.
Novocaine on the gum.
Thank you. And of course we are taught that they gave us our freedom. And we supposed to thank the same people.
The same thing they doing. The same thing happening now with the legalization of the marijuana in this country. We've been going through all the persecution all these years. We've been going to, now these politicians step out of nowhere to say they giving us this permission now. So they can carry that so-called, that's the same
and
thing.
And then we put them on them, like Rastafari,
and on the front line, supposed to be a
Exactly.
part of this. Anything that goes down with the subject, Rasta's supposed to be at the head of the table because we is the one who's using it for the spiritual recreation and use it to anybody else. You see what I'm saying? But forward to the subject.
Right?
Yes, King.
Now, so the apprenticeship period going on, the rural slaves now have this reputation. Every time the troops leave the island, we working for ourselves, doing what we want to do. When they reach, we acting like we working. These arrogant man, them like Patrick Grace, see, even though Pompey may have been illiterate and wearing raggedy clothes, he was still smarter than Patrick Grace.
Okay.
Even when Patrick Grace them went to the island during the revolts, he was running along the beach and telling people, hide your gun, hide this, hide that, or this a runaway slave, make sure they don't see him, they coming.
But you notice how all African revolts went down, even from the father of revolt, Nat Turner. These people always
Nat
had...
Turner's around the same time.
They always had all the money, all the this and that, but we always had the intelligence and intellect, you see? We always knew how to deal with them.
Of course, you know.
And
somehow some of us were able to thrive even though we were viewed as chattel slaves. That's something that's amazing.
Like you said,
that's something we don't often appreciate.
Yeah, like you said, the brother Pompey, that get back to the forward to the subject, he might have had all this and all of that, but he was more intelligent than the guy.
Now, in the situation with Pompey, of course, now Lord John Roll losing money. He could not wait to receive his money from emancipation. By the way, one of the ways the British rose funds to get this money for our emancipation and the rest of the British diaspora, they actually got a loan from the Rothschilds family.
Because they had to pay the slave masters them to free their own slaves. They had to compensate them. I remember, I said, how could you compensate people who made all kind of money off the backs of slavery? That you could try to compensate them after that too? Why not compensate the slaves who were being freed?
And I got to give praise to Bahamianology because they did that article and they put it online and that went viral. And so now that's ingrained in many Bahamian psyche. That's a good thing. You understand? Now, Lord John ruled, by the time his emancipation happened, he was happy to receive his money and do whatever with the land that y'all want. So what did we do in these places with so many absentee owners, with so many people that left the Bahamas
after the emancipation?
Right, exactly. No one gave nothing
No, we just inhabit it, develop it.
Thank you. Exactly.
Colonize
We've been there, right. And then, and of course, we ain't trying to give too much praises to a certain political system. But the black revolutionary politicians that was on the right side of history at that time, the ones that was trying to break down the UBP's colonial system, you know, they were the ones who, right, these were the ones who were really central in bringing in the concept of generation property. Because remember, when they first came in, one of their mandates was to uplift the family islands. That is one of the areas that we know that successive governments have failed on. You understand? But that is one of the major reasons how we got that property. You understand? Pompey, others, they laid the foundation.
So the same event that you're talking about that went down all over the Bahama Islands where slaves was after emancipation. All these slaves that were left there started to inhabit the lands that they were farming and working on and became their land. And this argument that no one hand nothing down to nobody. They just,
for the most part,
for the most
and
part.
And then you had people like Alexander Bain, who bought. Now, that's the myth behind it. I ain't 100% sure, because I talked to some historians in some books that say it's Charles Bain. Then some people say, oh, well, no, Charles Bain was let's just call him the Uncle Tom, if you will, and Alexander was the soldier. But the myth goes that he bought all of this land, which is now presently Bain Town, and then he sold allotments to black people to make us landowners, because you know that was one of the criteria for black people being able to vote. Okay, you had to be like a landowner. They put all these different criteria.
As things going along, even the women's suffrage and all
so
that.
He did that.
Different type things. Yes.
So you could see the full picture now and how this land came. It was in one avenue, but for them to erroneously claim that our land was given us by slave masters, that's a bold-faced lie.
Yes, I bless
you understand. And if anyone could find another will, you know, I'd be happy to look at it,
right,
and change my narrative if you could prove a different narrative. But the narrative that I know, and most other historians in the country would fully agree that, you know, these slave masters were not granting us this land. As a matter of fact, it's quite the opposite. You have land that's supposed to be belonging to us if we go on by the notion that the land that we were enslaved on is supposed to be the land that we have a birthright to. That's the thing in the Bahamas. That's the unique thing about the Bahamas. It also points to a revolutionary culture. Not necessarily a violent one, but a revolutionary culture that's not acknowledged.
Yes, sir.
You get places like Lightfoot Key.
Bless it.
You get places like Lightfoot Key. Lightfoot Key used to be a plantation after John Lightfoot. You driving along Western Road now, you get all these nice places that going up on the hill. Nice places. You get one named Tusculum. Tusculum was also a plantation. So Love Beach ain't named after Love Beach because Love Beach because that's where the love.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
So I and I, right? So like how we here, right? Over the years, I've been taught that the lingua we speak is broken English. Like I said, but you have a different approach to the whole concept.
Yeah,
why,
big time.
Give us this, because your approach to this concept is historical.
Right.
I see, not something that they feel that we just geographically pick up because we were brought from Africa and then we were taught by the Englishman that we developed this language called broken English.
Yeah,
but you have a whole concept and a whole historical line out of how this language is brought here with us.
Right.
Give us the history on that.
It was funny how I came across it one day. I was watching this nice documentary. It's actually done by BBC on racism from a British perspective. And it's actually quite surprisingly quite scathing on the British colonial system. You know, they gave it to you raw, how it was. And most of the places they was going all over Africa and they was talking about their colonial, imperial, genocidal experiences. And there was this man who was on Bunce Island, the famous slave island. And he was talking, but I can understand some of the things he was saying. He was speaking a language known as Creole from an area known as Senegambia. So even linguistics now agree, you know, they don't call Jamaica patois and our language broken English. You know, they even call it Creoles. And many of us Pan-African, Afrocentric historians and linguists and anthropologists have a problem with that terminology as well.
So our language have a name?
Yes, it's important to know that our language is a language.
That's how
you understand? And we could call it Gullah and Geechee.
Gullah and Geechee.
Right. So when the loyalists came,
y'all hear that?
And the black loyalists and the free slaves.
Broken English.
No.
We speak
Gullah Geechee.
Gullah Geechee.
Gullah or Geechee. Either word.
All right, Gullah
Right.
or Geechee. You can say Gullah or you can say Geechee.
Geechee, right.
All right.
Or you can say Gullah Geechee.
Gullah Geechee.
Yeah, you understand?
And combine them together.
Right.
Yes, King.
Now, you have something called the Gullah Geechee Corridor. This is an area known as rice country. What we see for breakfast, lunch, and dinner in the Bahamas.
You didn't know that.
But we don't grow no rice.
You didn't know
understand?
that. You didn't know that.
We got the straw works. You know, you have certain straw making techniques, and they have their famous sweet straw.
And we famous for that in the Bahamas. We some of the best straw
exactly.
people. Yeah.
And those techniques you will find in the Charleston markets in South Carolina, and then you could trace them back to southern Nigeria, which is the region where the vast majority of our slave ships came from.
Hey, that's true, because not cutting you off. I was watching a couple of old slave movies, them like where they do movies, and I watched, they passed through this town, like where you see back in them Carolina town, whatever, and they had this little setup where these people was having straw baskets all
that's
over,
the famous
selling.
Charleston
So I say, why I say people they straw work over there too, Jared.
Yeah, that's our people, brother.
Yeah,
that's our people. And
man.
Again, this points to what your path and your mission is. You know, this the revival of our culture, of our traditions and our roots, to increase our quality of life while we here on earth. You understand? This is a very powerful thing, and because we don't acknowledge it, we miss out on a lot of things. You know, people like Michelle Obama is a Gullah. You know, Michael Jordan.
So
Jim Brown, some of the best athletes the world has ever seen.
Enough in order to give thanks. So tell me something. I hear you was before, while we was taking our break and reason on some other levels.
Right.
You was talking about John Canoe. Give us some more.
Give
us some heights on John Canoe.
John Canoe is
something. We always go to John Canoe all the time.
We
hear this name John Canoe over the years because of a famous name, because of a famous event in the Bahamas. And we know this come from a slave, but give us the history on this brother John Canoe.
Yeah, well, John Canoe wasn't a slave.
He wasn't a slave?
No.
Okay, what he was?
Never was a slave. He was.
That was another.
That's
again. I say,
that one there.
Give us the
history.
Bold-faced
lie.
Give us the history, man.
And John Canoe was an African general. He was one of 4 or 5 African generals in that region at the time. And believe it or not, about 3 or 4 of them was named John by the English.
Okay.
And when I talk to my counterparts in Ghana and stuff, and I ask them about it, those from Princetown, they say they believe it to be John Canoe. As a matter of fact, they actually believe that his body is buried in a cemetery called Tafo Cemetery, right there in Kumasi. John Canoe fought against the British and the Dutch, and even at one point the Prussians, that's present-day Germany, but the north part, for decades.
From right from the Bahamas?
No, in Ghana.
Yeah.
In Ghana, present-day Ghana.
All right.
In southwestern Ghana, an area today known as Princetown.
All right.
And he controlled the commerce in that area. But this is before the British really got that stronghold in that area.
So what is his connection with the Bahamas?
I can let you know right now.
All right.
He have a big connection. He never been there though.
That's why he said I want his connection.
After he finally lost. Now, when you look at the colonization of Africa and wonder how they get us, what they don't tell you is every time they make some big spike in their military technology, or in other words, whenever they make a new big gun, they don't give it to us right away. They just use that new big gun on us, and then they just only give us that one big gun when they have another big gun. But you understand what I'm saying? And so they did these things. Now, excuse me.
Yeah, man.
When you look at John Canoe, when he finally lost, his most famous battle, for example, is when he raided Fort Metal Cross on Christmas Day. He used to choose Christmas Day to raid these forts, the same way Harriet Tubman used to choose Christmas Day to do her thing. The same way Sam Sharp them choose Christmas.
Whilst everybody
them slipping
right? And all drinking and celebrating, that's in the movement. Yes, King.
I have reserves about how they grant us no day for us to do that. We just choose to do that on that time. For a long time, John Canoe was illegal in the Bahamas, you know. They only made it legal when foreigners started to come in like it, and tourism became a major industry. I talked to a man, Ramsey, I just gave you last name, out of Fox Hill, old man in the 80s. Tell me about how they used to have rush outs and practice for John Canoe, marching down Bernard Road along Blair. And the people in Blair used to call the police on them for rushing John Canoe, talking about they doing OB and witchcraft. John Canoe, you know.
So his connection with the Bahamas?
Now, John Canoe was sent away to Kumasi. His generals, his lieutenants, they rescue him. They make sure he ain't get enslaved, and they send him to Kumasi. That's the heights that he was on. Some people refer to him as like a general king. You understand? He had his own village, his own people he was taking care of. You understand? And then Kumasi was the Ashanti capital. He was an Ahanta, not Ashanti, Ahanta, but they were one of the groups that were part of the Ashanti Empire. Now, the punishment for these people was to be sent into the British colonies as slaves. So one of the cities in John Canoe's territory was called Coromantee. And then you have the Coromantee in Jamaica. You have John Canoe celebrations with their hero Coffee in Guyana. You have John Canoe celebrations in Belize. You used to have them in North Carolina and South Carolina. You Google John Canoe, South Carolina, you can see old people beating the drums and all this stuff. They try to make it seem like it come from these British masquerades. But I could show you African deities. The most central one, in my belief, is one called Egungun. And if you look at Egungun, not those silly British masquerades where they put John Canoe underneath, that's something different. Egungun was one of the bases of our essence, our John Canoe costumes. They brought the story of John Canoe over with them. Some of these people served under John Canoe, and they brought it over. Some of these men, they were military men. Now, the level of military they was on, this militant voices, was a whole nother level. You understand? Unlike other people during this time, early on, you understand? These people didn't only go for their freedom. They formed their own societies. And in some cases, like in Antigua, you had Queen Brefu, a woman now, that's a queen. And her plan was to kill all the white people on the island. You understand? Take over the island and make Antigua a colony of the Ashanti Empire in Ghana.
Trust me, we got to get forward into these things because the timing right now, you're about to wrap up.
I know. Again, talking about Africa and this demonization of Africa, there's a metaphor or analogy that I use to explain pretty much what was done in a nutshell. So, I use the Bahamas as an analogy.
Yes,
I use my people in Kid Island because I don't want no one think I dissing, and I ain't dissing because I's island boy and I prefer the island life anyway.
Yes, King.
But let's imagine, hypothetically speaking, some aliens from outer space came to the Bahamas. They looked down from space and they say, "Boy, the Bahamas is the prettiest country in the world. Look at that blue water. We coming to conquer them. We ain't care, right? We want that blue water. We want that conch. We ain't care who dead. We getting that." So they come here. Which areas would they focus on? They taking over New Providence. They taking over Abaco, Grand Bahama, and Freeport. You understand? Andros, probably Exuma. They taking over the places where people are. Because you conquer those places, then you conquer the country. Who would survive this conquering? Them little groups of families up there in Orange Creek Kid Island, or in Old Bite Kid Island.
Because they ain't going after the place where
they need to go after that to conquer the Bahamas. You understand? You understand? Now what they do now, of course, now those people now they cut off from the society they always knew.
Hey, trust me, we can have to get into the show like
you see where I going now, right?
Right. Gotta wrap this up.
And this is Bahamian culture.
We can catch us on the next show.
Yes, brother. I appreciate it.
I know you guys just doing it. I gotta wrap this up, Shango. So let the people know where they can find Shango on your webpage and stuff like that.
On Facebook, you can add me, Christopher Behanzian Davis, right? Bahamas, you can type that in. My page on Facebook is Brain Food 242.
Yes, King.
All right. You can email me at African with a K, AFRIKAN EBUBE @gmail.com. African Abube, that's Igbo, which is another base for our Gullah language for glory. So that's African glory.
When we get forward in the next show, we will talk about your experiences with Dr. Umar Johnson, because we know you brought him down here.
For sure.
And I know you all have a connection together, so we want to talk about experiences with them and stuff like that, and get into other things. But we have to wrap this one up. So you finish giving out your information.
One more thing, for those who are interested in family research, I do family research for all sorts of different reasons. And my other entity is called Sankofa Flamingo. For those of y'all who deep on African culture, y'all can know where I coming from with that. But the Sankofa Flamingo, that's me as well. So any family research you may need for any reason, if you just want it for yourself, I have something called the Mayuba Special.
Logo. So I'll send it to my brother and make it put up on the podcast so they can see the information also.
And so for anybody, any Bahamians looking to research their family history for whatever reason, even if it's just to know, you understand?
Yeah, man.
Just hit me up. It's very affordable.
Yes, I know.
And I don't kill you with the price unless I find something.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, I Rastafari.
Right. Yeah, man.
Give thanks and praise. Yeah, man. Okay. Well, this is a special program tonight, so the time was extended for this program, and as you can see, if we just stay here with this report on, I just will go on tomorrow morning. So so no, don't be sorry about that. I would have liked to stay on there to do this too. But we can't do a podcast that long.
No.
Yes, I bless the Lord. We're going to pay the bills now. Send a shout out to our sponsors. I know how to go. Pyramid Cinematics, where we do short films, as I said, where we deal with movies. We do commercials. We also do videos. We do game shows and whatever you wanna, you see at Pyramid Cinematics. That is, you check out the location, the number, and you get it, and we'll be there on the location for you. We also want to send a shout out to Pop Cinema. That I see where we pop up at your spot, your park or wherever like that. We provide the movie, you buy the popcorns and the drinks, and then in certain events we pop up there and you pay for everything, the whole package deal. That I saying, yes, we send a shout out to Jaded Fashion, where you get your nice fashion clothes for the females them out there, quality fashion at quality price. That I saying, call Jaded Fashion, the number on the screen you'll see it. That I see, and also Militant Minds Music, where you get culture music, you get the rebel music, music for the soul, music for the mind, food for thought. Give thanks and praise. This is Militant Voices Podcast, Season 2, Episode 5. We'll be forward again on the show. We'll have to bring this brother forward because this brother got so much to say. He's full of knowledge. This brother's a walking knowledge computer. So we'll bring him forward on the show. Blessed love, Chris Shango. Yes, give thanks and praise. And whilst you all, I don't know, they're going to go visit the Pompey Museum downtown, man. Just treat all this. Get some of that Bohemian history, man. Right there. Give thanks and praise.
And Mr. Greedy, Mr. Greedy, red dying bleedy. Oh, Mr. Greedy, I'm talking to you, Mr. Greedy.